Hello, everyone. On today's podcast episode, I'm going to talk about atheism and why I don't really believe atheists are as dumb as as I say they are, you know, or as most will believe from my words. So, what I mean is, I've said that, being an atheist is illogical, right? And yes, being an atheist is illogical. But it doesn't mean that atheists are dumb people. You know. Why? Because a human being, can decide when to use their brain or not. A human being can decide when to use their intelligence or not. There are times when, because of peer influence, we don't reason things properly, right? And that's how atheism, begin. That's how atheism spreads. You know, if a friend of yours is an atheist and he wants you to become an atheist, just from the desire not to disappoint your friend, you'll become an atheist. It doesn't mean you're dumb. It just means the decision you made to become an atheist is dumb, right? Why? Because because of the influence of your friend, right? You didn't think about the the choice, you know, you didn't think about the choice logically. You still wanted to be friends with that person, right? You didn't want your friends to be disappointed. So you decided to become an atheist as well. Or if an atheist is someone you revere, someone you look up to, right? If he tells you he's an atheist and he gives you an illogical reason why he's an atheist, right? You will not think about the reason properly. Why? Because you don't want to look down on the person, or because you look up to the person so much, you no longer question what the person is telling you. Every claim that the person makes, you no longer question it. It's not because you're dumb, but because you've chosen not to use your logical mind to think about his words, his claims logically. It's a choice. So no, not all atheists are dumb. Some atheists are very, very smart, very, very logical beings, very, very logical people. But just because they're very, very logical does not mean they're logical about atheism. They can be logical about everything else but atheism. Because when it comes to atheism, they became atheists because of something else. Because someone influenced them to become an atheist. Yet it's illogical to allow the influence of someone to determine whether you believe that God exists or not. But that's the power of peer pressure. Peer pressure can change your mind on things that make logical sense. You start to accept things that make logical sense, that do not make any logical sense, just because your peers believe it. Many people have the mindset of, if everybody believes it, it must be true. But the truth is, it's not about, the amount of people that believe in something. It's about whether something is true or not. At the end of the day, even if a billion people, even if an infinite number of people believe in something, it will never make it true. The truth is the truth, and belief is belief. So, do not believe that atheists are the dumbest people in the world. They are not. Although it is illogical or dumb to be an atheist, you can be manipulated, tricked, bullied, and gaslit into becoming an atheist. Faulty logic, right, appears reasonable from afar. If you don't think about someone's logic, right? If you don't think about someone's claim very, very deeply, it's easy to fall for lies. It's easy to fall for, illogical arguments. Because if you don't think about it using logic, if you don't think about it logically, it appears reasonable. Some illogical arguments, some illogical claims are so, complicated that it's hard for you to see the logical nature of it. Because of that, when you're influenced by someone, when you're influenced by someone's prestige, the person is a famous scientist, or the person is famous by default, when you're influenced by their words or their prestige, you no longer care about about their argument as much. You just let them talk and you just accept it. You accept when someone tells you something illogical, especially when you respect them. When you respect someone, it's easy for them to influence you with illogical arguments. Why? Because you respect them too much to think that they'll lie to you. You think the moment you start thinking someone is smarter than you no longer start questioning the words that come out of their mouths. And that's how usually atheism, people become atheists. Because some of these atheists have degrees, they have degrees, and they also are in position of power. Some of them are celebrities. Some of them are, famous scientists. So even though they're illogical, many people automatically just assume that because they're famous scientists or they're celebrities, they're automatically smarter than you, or they're automatically smarter than them, and will no longer question their words. And because they no longer question their words, they just start accepting everything, single thing that comes out of a celebrity's mouth, or everything that comes out of a scientist's mouth, without questioning it. Even the most illogical words, even the most illogical things that come out of their mouths, you just accept it as fact. A famous scientist comes out and tells you he's an atheist. You start assuming that, just because he's an atheist, it means atheists, atheism is the correct choice to make in life. And then you become an atheist. Because he can't be wrong, right? The famous scientist can't be wrong. Guess what? He is. He may not be wrong about everything else, but he's wrong about atheism itself. That's how life works. Nobody is perfect. Stop seeing scientists as perfect beings. We're the most illogical people in the world. You'll be tricked into atheism without you realizing that. Nothing they say makes logical sense when it comes to atheism. Nothing they say makes logical sense. Same with celebrities. Just because someone is a celebrity does not mean they have it all figured out. They're not geniuses. At least not all celebrities. Even if they are geniuses, it doesn't mean they use their brain all the time. There are times where people make mistakes. There are times where illogical arguments sound logical, from afar. Sometimes, an argument sounds so logical, you don't really think too much about it anymore. But yet, the moment you start thinking, deeply about it, that's when it just falls apart. But you first have to accept that scientists and celebrities make mistakes. These famous atheists that you see, debating people all the time, nothing they say makes logical sense. Nothing they say about atheism makes logical sense. But yet, these people have been famous for years. And because of their fame itself, many people automatically believe they're telling the truth just because they're famous. That's all it requires for people to start believing in you. You don't need the truth. You just need to be famous. As long as you're famous, people automatically assume that, you're the one telling the truth. Because, hey, you can't be lying. So many people believe in you. So many people believe in you, it automatically means, it's the truth. Because so many people believed, years in the past, so many people once believed that the earth was flat. Does that mean the earth is flat? No. So many people believe the earth was flat in the past, but the entire earth as a whole is not flat. So just because famous scientists believe something does not make it, the truth. You have to question what the words that come out of these people's mouths. If you don't question their words, it's easy for them to manipulate you into doing something you shouldn't be doing. It's easy for them to manipulate you into believing something that makes no logical sense. It's easy to be scammed if you don't think the scammer is a scammer. If it doesn't even cross your mind that someone is scamming you, you'll be scammed every time. There's not even a possibility in your head that atheists could be wrong. You'll be scammed into believing that atheism is, the right choice every single time. And it's because of that belief that, the person that they got the atheism from can be wrong, that they became atheists to begin with. And the first person to become an atheist obviously didn't, become an atheist through logic, because it's illogical to become an atheist. It was probably a famous person or someone related to someone famous. They became atheists, and not because he's famous. Everyone thinks automatically that, all the people around him automatically start believing that, hey, he's famous. That automatically means that, there's nothing he says is wrong. If nothing he says is wrong, I'll just believe it anyways. If he's an atheist, I'm an atheist. That's the mindset that people have. Peer influence can ruin your life. And peer influence can make you believe in the most illogical things in the world. Well, that's how life works. It doesn't really mean you're completely, a brainless idiot. It does, being an atheist does not mean you're a brainless idiot. It just means that when it comes to atheism, there's no logic in your head. You don't use logic when it comes to atheism. You didn't become an atheist using logic. But you could do other things logically. But because of the influence of somebody else, you decided not to think too deeply about, your atheism. You decide not to think too deeply about things when it comes to atheism. So you just allowed someone to gaslight you. You allowed someone to manipulate you. You allowed someone to trick you into becoming an atheist through pure influence, through the belief that they can be wrong. They're famous, so they can be wrong. They're scientists, so they can be wrong. They have power, so they can be wrong. You're wrong. And that's how life works. It's easy to follow others. But if you're not smart enough and all you do is follow others, one of these days you will follow others off a cliff. You will jump down a cliff when everyone else is jumping down a cliff. You will fall off a cliff when everyone else falls off a cliff. If you don't think about your own actions, one of these days, when the lives of others are ruined based on their bad choices, your life will be ruined along with theirs. You have to learn how to be an individual. You have to learn how to be uninfluenced by your peers. If it doesn't make logical sense, do not believe in it. If what they do makes no logical sense, stop doing it. These are not good friends. If the people around you make bad choices, stay away from them. Sooner or later, these bad choices will come down on you. These bad choices could ruin your life. Their bad choices could ruin your life. If you're someone who hangs around gangs, right? Guess what? When a rival gang member shoots, he likes to shoot everyone around them. Meaning if you keep hanging around gang members, right? And you're not a gang member, it's only a matter of time before you get killed. Because when the rival gangs want to kill your friends, right? You will get killed along with them. It's a fact. Sometimes they target you, thinking you're part of them. The moment you hang around a gang, right? Rival gang members automatically assume you're part of that gang. even if it's just one member. Even if you only hang around one member in the gang, right? You have one friend, and that friend is in a gang. You know, he's a violent lunatic that loves killing people, right? Guess what? If any of the rival gangs see you with them, they automatically assume you're part of their gang as well, even if you're not. And in the future, if they decide to start killing people of that, gang members of the gang your friends in, you will get killed as well. There's so many cases of girls dying due to dating gang members. The choices of your friends, if they're bad choices, sooner or later will harm you as well. The bad choices of the people around you will come down on you as well. If you don't want your life to be ruined because of somebody else's choices, stay away from people that make bad choices. It's that easy. If you don't want your life to be ruined, because of someone else, because of a choice somebody else made, isn't it unfair that you die because somebody else made a bad choice? That the cops will come and kill you because you're friends with someone who raped or killed someone in the past? Because you're friends with them, the cops not think you were in on it. Now the cops will blame you for it. Because you're friends, you must know what, because you're friends, you must know what happened. That's the mindset of the police. You can't be friends with someone without knowing what happened, what they're doing. So you know what they're doing, and yet you allow it to happen. That's a crime in and of itself. If you witness a crime, you don't call the cops. That's a crime in and of itself. Even if you didn't witness it, right? From the cops' point of view, they don't know if you witnessed it or not. Who knows what you guys are doing? Nobody knows. This is how you get framed for crimes you did not commit. This is how your life gets ruined for crimes you did not commit. The bad choices of the people around you will always come back to bite you in the butt sooner or later. And this is how life works. Stay away from sinners because you will not like the end result of it. Stay away from atheists because you will not like the end result of it. No matter how smart an atheist is, in the end, one illogical choice leads to another. From believing that from believing that God doesn't exist, you just keep going from that back, from one illogical choice to another, because your atheism will influence your life. Believing that God doesn't exist will influence your life from then on, without you realizing it. The choices you make will be completely different from the choices that someone who believes in God makes. Just from that choice alone, just from the choice to not believe in God, the way you see the world changes. Your perspective of the world changes. And it's even easier for you to make bad choices because now you don't believe God exists. There are no consequences to your actions anymore. You start having the mindset of, if I kill someone, right, and nobody's there to see it, it means it didn't happen. That's the mindset of an atheist, because God doesn't exist. He automatically believes that there's no consequences to his actions. As long as he can get away with it, nobody will know that he did it. That's the mindset of someone who doesn't believe that God exists. They will get away with it every time. As long as they hide all the evidence, it means nothing happened. So you have to be careful of being around atheists. It's easier for them to sin than anyone else. It's easier for them to be a sinner than anyone else, because they think they can get away with it. As long as they can trick the government, as long as they can hide the evidence, they'll be able to get away with any crime they commit. That's the mindset of an atheist. Since God doesn't exist, I can get away scot-free because nobody will be there to see it. If nobody's there to see me commit a crime, I never committed that crime. That's the mindset of an atheist. While the mindset of an atheist is the equal and opposite. We know that God is watching us. So even when there's nobody there, God will always be there. God is always there watching. So if you're someone who loves being around atheists, just know that it's easier for them to sin than anyone else around you. It's easier for them to be a scammer than everyone else. It's easier for them to be a thief than everyone else. It's easier for them to be a murderer than anyone else. It's easier for them to be a kidnapper than anyone else. It's easier for them to be a manipulator, an evil manipulator than anyone else. It's easier for them to be a trickster than anyone else. Because they think they can get away with it. There'll be no consequence to their actions. As long as no one sees them or notices their crimes, the crime did not exist. They did not commit any crimes. That's the mindset of an atheist. Not all atheists have that, not all atheists are that immoral, but it's easier for them to be immoral than everyone else. It's much easier for them to be immoral than everyone else. This is why the Bible tells you, avoid sinners. Do not dwell in the midst of sinners. You will not like the end result of it. That's it for today's podcast episode. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.